is Dr. Michele Drake, and I'm a 30-year practice owner of the Drake Center for Veterinary Care in Encinitas, California. I'm also a published author of a book on leadership in veterinary medicine, and I've been speaking to veterinarians nationally on leadership and how to run a practice. So during my 30 years, I not only worked in my practice, but I also worked a lot on the practice, and this allowed me to grow the practice from myself and 4 employees to 10 plus doctors and over 60 employees before it was acquired. And during those 30 years, it was a hospital that had an EBITDA that was considered in the top 5+% according to AHA's standards. So not only was it profitable, but it was also a great place to work in that I have pretty much zero attrition of doctors from the practice and very little attrition of key employees at the Drake Center. So during the 10 years that I've been speaking on this, it's been kind of my personal goal to share the wisdom and knowledge that I've accumulated. And what separates myself from other veterinarians who also have great practices is that I have spent a fair amount of time in learning how to transfer this wisdom and come up with almost sort of like a package of how to run practice in a really strong way that, again, provides a great place for people to work. It's a professional environment, a strong culture, mission driven, but is also a very profitable hospital too, which lends itself to making it a good place to work because people tend to be happier when they're well taken care of financially. During the past, maybe 5 plus 10 years, there's been such a big transition of veterinary medicine in that corporate ownership now, I think, is about 30% of the ownership of all practices. And a lot of those practices are the larger ones, my practice being one of those. And I have a goal now of trying to find a couple of corporate groups that kind of feel like they're aware of the missing ingredient in helping them to transform these practices into being really strong practices. And some of that is, I think, the succession planning or lack of succession planning that so many veterinary hospitals have. Before I sold my hospital, for the 3 years before I had it acquired, I took two of my very strong associates, and I had them, be part of the leadership team so that they could, own the leadership plan that we had in place at the Drake Center and how, the system that we use to run the hospital and carry on that really strong culture and management process that we have. And I do find from talking to veterinarians out in the world and corporate groups that this is extremely rare, that most veterinarians do not take the time to really invest in a succession plan, which really benefits both the employees and the team that is left in place, but also it really enhances the acquisition for the corporate groups. So this missing ingredient, I think, is what I'd really like to key in a little bit in hoping to convince the leadership of some corporate groups that there would be great benefit to them hiring myself and my team to help to build their teams to be strong for, again, acquiring more employees, retaining employees, becoming a really healthy place to work, and then also actualizing into higher profitability for everyone's benefit. Since the economic change that occurred in 2022 and interest rates increased, many of the acquisition groups are now needing to hold the practices longer than I think they intended. And the difficulty with this is because I think they've become more operators than they planned on. And so there's a need really to invest more on the local level of the practices. And I do think this is, again, the missing ingredient where people who are great at mergers and acquisitions and such are really not knowledgeable on how to build the local teams and the local practices for the best economic outcome and really the healthiest way for the practices to be healthy. So the combination of factors, financial factors, and the necessity of holding these practices longer, I believe, is leading to the situation where we need to really help bolster the local practices and help build them, from that level so that they can be more responsible for their culture, their mission, and also the economic outcome of the practice. I think there's a great benefit to both, the local team and obviously the economic benefit to the corporate group. I 100% believe, actually, I know that if a corporate group is willing to invest in what I'm recommending, that this will add to the EBITDA of the practices. I'm certain of that. I know that to be true because I have 30 years of experience in my own practice of doing this, but also in helping many other practices over the past 10 years. So I hope you give me a chance. My really only motivation here is to help build really strong practices and prove that we can actually take a corporate group and make it a super healthy place to work that people can be proud of and want to stay at. So that's my goal, and I hope you'll give me an opportunity to help you with that. So the way this program would be rolled out would be for me to meet with the leadership team first and explain to them this very specific plan that I have developed to really build strong local teams. I think again this is part of the missing ingredient in that leadership has so many amazing skills that veterinarians themselves do not have, and abilities to scale things in a way that I think we're learning about and maybe can have some understanding, but that's what the corporate group brings. What I would bring would be to help build the very local teams, and this is what I think is missing right now, is building local teams so that they feel like they have ownership and they have leadership of their team at the local level. And this is what creates pride, strong cultures, mission driven, and allows them to help to manage their local issues and opportunities in a systematic way. So I've created this plan. I would like to share this with the leadership team and then use some discovery to hear about the specific pain points that you're having that you see. I generally can go into just about any practice and within 5 to 10 minutes tell you what is missing in the practice. But I would love to hear from the leadership what they think their issues are and to help walk through that plan with them to help them to see how this would benefit at the local level, and therefore again, the employees, which is such an important aspect that we really need to focus on, is at that local level, making them feel proud and ownership of their practice, and that create that really strong culture, mission driven again, and also a leadership team and a cadence of meeting structures that would allow them to deal with all their issues and opportunities for the best outcome. So I have developed this plan. I really want to share it with you. And then from there, go out into the regional locations, depending on the size of the group. I would be willing to travel to do 1 day meetings with the leadership of the team, of the practices. So the practice manager, the medical director, and any other key employees should come as a team. And of course, there would be required reading before they show up to help them to get more out of this meeting. This day would be about 4 to 5 hours of lecture and a couple hours of discovery for them, and also workshopping their practice. So if they come somewhat prepared, and then we spend this day, I would meet with them, via Zoom or whatever, system that you all have on a monthly basis to help work through problems. I'm also willing to, if there's certain issues that practices are having, to deep dive into very specific things. I've been through just about every single practice issue that you can imagine. So HR, building accommodations, efficiency, just about everything. So any questions or problems a practice is having, I can address it. So not only have I done this in my own practice, but in all of the reach out that I've done over the past 10 years nationally, I've been able to help a lot of practices pretty quickly with identifying their issues and then setting them up in the right direction. So I think every group's going to be a little bit different in how they're going to manage this, but I have a very specific plan that I think would be such a worthwhile investment for any corporate group, with a plan of spending about 6 to 12 months to help to really strengthen the local teams. And I would love the opportunity to have myself and my team to come in and really help your groups, to grow and be stronger and great places to work. What's motivating me to build this program is that I believe there is, again, this missing ingredient for how corporate groups, you know, and the local veterinary hospital can come together to create this really great place to work. And so, in order to do that, we need to build the local teams. Without a doubt, I'm certain that if you allowed me to come in and help build a local team, to have them to have really pride of ownership of their practice, to have strong culture, a mission driven business, and be able to manage their own issues and opportunities, that this also leads to a higher EBITDA for the practice. It also, very importantly, leads to a better place to work, which is so important for acquiring new employees, keeping them happy. And this, most importantly, leads to great patient care, client service, and again, happy employees. So I hope you'll give me the opportunity. I hope you'll look at this plan, this and schedule a meeting with me and give me a chance to help you to create a really great group. I hope I've intrigued you enough to want to maybe set up a meeting and spend more time exploring this possibility of how to help your group become even stronger and healthier. If you have any more questions about it, just want to reach out, email, phone number, whatever works best for you. I would be happy to set up a Zoom time and spend some time just walking through that with you.